Everyone's watching. You know it's serious. We're getting closer. This isn't over. The pressure's on. You feel it. You got it all. Believe it. When you call, get up. Oh, oh, you keep on your head. Cause this is Africa. This time for Africa. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of NDISCO'S Village Meeting Podcast. This is all about Africa, society, and culture. This is episode 30, series 2. Today, we are delighted, we are excited to have as our special guest a daughter of the soil, a very renowned human being, well educated and well represented out there. We are going to discuss the African education, the education of our young Africans. And I have titled it The Miseducation of African Young. And I'm asking a question. I'm not saying that it is, but the question is, are we giving them the real education that they deserve? And we are going to base our point today on Nigeria, because when we talk about Africa on a whole, some are doing better than others. So today they say charity begins at home. So we are focusing on that aspect. And so without much ado, I will bring into the discussion. I call her Big Sister because she's what we call Obu Mbise, a great daughter of Mbise Nation, the community where we all grew up in Igbo land. But because of this, global topic and outlook, where I come from, we say we call Dada and Dede. But at this point, I am going to just restrict myself to calling her rightful title, Professor Chinwe Obaji, is an armist. She is the first female education minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we really are lucky to have her today discuss on this topic. Without much ado, I will invite Professor Chinwe Obaji. Hello, Big Sis. How
Hello.
are you?
Hi, Ndi. How do you do? Thank you very much.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, I'm hearing you very well. And are you hearing me?
Yeah, if you could turn it up a little bit, that would be great.
Okay. Yes, I have.
Yes. Awesome.
Mm.
I can't believe I was able to tear you out of your busy schedule. I know you are a very busy woman, even if you are now retired, but not tired. You keep being everywhere and doing everything. So thank you so much for joining me in this podcast today.
Thank you. Mm.
So you and I have never met face to face. Maybe we've seen each other without recognizing each other, but we made a direct acquaintance. You were in a WhatsApp platform that you are already there, and I was invited into it, and I came in, and I was really impressed with the way you were trying to bring history back to the young and enlighten people. And little did I know that, my little contribution coming in also sat well with you. That the first time I got a call from you, I'm like, wow, who my little self getting a call from Professor Chinwe Obaji. And we talked for a long time on our mutual interest, education in Africa. So I am so honored to be acquainted with you. And at this point now, I will give you a few minutes to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Professor Chinwe Obaji, because a lot of people have heard about you.
Okay. My
In a
name
good way.
is Chinwe Obaji. I'm a Nigerian, an African. And I will say, I don't believe in all these big titles. So I am an educator, to put
Yeah.
it mildly. I'm an educator, a farmer, a practicing farmer,
Uh-huh.
a mother,
Uh-huh.
an auntie, a
Uh-huh.
sister, huh? And a
Yes.
proud Nigerian, a proud African. Like I did say, an educator, a farmer, and presently I also involved in farming across our continent. I am the chair of African Farming Innovations right now.
Wow.
Yes, amongst
Wow.
other things that I have done. So probably
Yes.
because of our discussion, a few things will come out about me. Yes.
Wonderful. I
Mm.
mean, you didn't even mention the latest one that you were into for, yeah, you mentioned everything, but one of the things that I know, you are a really devout Igbo uh, tribe lady, and you do all you can to also help in propagating Igbo culture.
Yes, I do.
Um, and presently, you are aiding in doing something that I want you to mention yourself, if possible.
Yeah, looking at the constitution of Ohaneze Ndigbo worldwide.
Yes.
Yes. Hmm?
Wow.
Apart from that,
Wow.
I'm also, like I said, as an educator, it covers a wide range of fields. Like I'm also involved in human trafficking, trying to sensitize people, especially the younger generation, on dangers associated with human trafficking. You know,
Yes.
I've been able to
Yes.
cross in Nigeria sometime in 2019. I mainstreamed elements of trafficking in persons into the
Mm,
minimum, that is the curriculum of the colleges of education in Nigeria, and
mm,
ran a nationwide workshop. And that was an EU funded project. Later, after that, I came to the United States of America, worked with Jarvis Christian University in Texas, where I sensitized them on the dangers associated with human trafficking, amongst other
mm.
things. Get to know about it.
Yes. I know you are involved in a whole lot. And that's why sometimes when you and I talk, we start on a topic and we end on, I mean, we never even remember ourselves as individuals or anybody else, but we talk on how to improve and what do we think about everything between the youths and the young women out there, how to empower everybody else. So I learn a lot from you, listening to you, and I keep saying to people, I learn something every day from everyone. But when I listen to you, it's like I am in a history class of things that. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you for that.
because education is a lifelong process. We learn every day from each other. We
Yes,
strive from
yes,
the day we are born until the day we die. If it's
yes,
me, any day I haven't learned anything from people, it's either I'm learning from interaction with people. Also, when I talk with you, I also get to learn. I learned a few new things too, talking with
thank
you.
you, thank you,
I'm
thank
talking
you.
with you, or I go to internet, I try to find something new to learn. Education is a lifelong process.
It is a lifelong, and I'm glad you are mentioning that because some people don't know. They when they get to a certain age, they say, this is the end. What can I learn new? Life is what it is, full of learning. And so today, I wanted us to touch on when you were, and that is a big feat, being the first female education minister in a Federal Republic of Nigeria. Personally, I think the women still have a long way to go to be represented in government positions. And for you at that stage, at that in that era to have been chosen to do that must have really, you must have impressed a whole lot of people in that way. So my question now is, the first one I have is in that. Thank you for briefly introducing yourself. I know you encountered when you were placed in that position, the curriculum, the staff, everything around education of the masses in Nigeria. What did you meet? Did you think what you had met fulfilled our need in Nigeria to move forward education wise?
Okay, let us look at education. The people do not, when we talk about education, they think education, anything that goes wrong at education, somebody has to be held responsible for it. What is education? Education for me is a process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills,
Hmm.
values, and habits. It involves the transfer of knowledge and skills from one generation to the next. You understand?
Yes.
Plays a critical role in personal development. Like you did say, you learn every day, and I
Hmm.
learn every day. That is part of that critical development. Huh?
Yes. Yes.
It plays a critical role in personal development, social mobility, and economic growth.
Yes.
Thank you. That is what education is. And
Yes.
you can also divide education into three specific groups. You have the formal education, which is what we may term the structured education. I guess that's what you want us to discuss today. Hmm?
Right. You can expand that. We can start from there. You mean the four
You-
walls, the one that go happens between the four walls of a building? Yes.
which is the structured education, the learning that we get in
Yes.
schools, colleges, or
Pedagogy. Yeah.
and then you have the informal education, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Learning
Mm-hmm.
experience. It is self-study, and you are learning by looking at what the other people are doing. You are learning from
Hands-on
hand.
skills. Yes.
You see, even in this form of informal education, and there's no
Mm-hmm.
form of education that is more important than the other. You understand?
Yeah.
When
Mm-hmm.
you remember the Aba Women's Riot of 1929,
Mm-hmm.
mhm, you know, those women, did any of them attend any formal, any structured school? They didn't.
They
But
didn't. No.
what they were able to do, they learned informally from their mothers. You
Okay.
understand? Hmm?
Yeah.
They improved themselves from their mothers, from their fathers. Fine. Look at also um, this Igbo entrepreneurship scheme, the Iba boy,
Yes.
the Anambra people. You can
Mm-hmm.
remember that. Are people not talking about it today, researching on it, even in first tier universities in the United States of America? Those people that started the Iba boy in Anambra State, Anambra State of Nigeria, because that's where they started from. Did any of them go to school? They didn't go to school. You
That's the
understand?
one, the Christian apprenticeship now.
Apprenticeship now, yes.
Yes.
See, even in universities in the United States,
Harvard. Yeah.
universities Harvard, they're talking about it. Eh? That's also a
Mm-hmm.
form of education. Then you have the lifelong learning, fine,
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
education. So
Mm-hmm.
fine. Now, the question is, when I got there, what I saw or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, you
Yes.
know that the whole system is dynamic. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand? Eh?
Mm-hmm.
It is not static. Culture is dynamic. Everything is dynamic, and we move from one stage in life to another stage in life. You understand? So,
Yes.
and then you cannot achieve, because education is also dynamic and not static. You cannot achieve everything at the same time. You know,
Mhm.
you have to flow with with what operates at a particular time, at a particular time and space where you find yourself. You understand? Fine.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like uh, when you look at it, when you even look at the world and this involvement, because education is not just about going to school to learn this. And when you are talking about being educated, it's all facets of life. That you're a
Yes.
successful doctor is that you had a good education. You're a
Yes.
successful farmer is that you had good education. You're a
Yes.
successful engineer is that you have good education. But you see, most times when we talk about education, we now try to to get all the other professions by the side and focus on education. You understand? Fine.
Yes. And that's the point I was trying to make, that
Mhm,
when we say that in some schools, we look at that about Japan, China,
mhm,
one of the Finland is now the top in education because they inculcated everything. And I'm asking that because when people come into such an office looking at education, like you have just described on a big umbrella, was Africa or East Africa at that point where we look over or ignore all other things that you just mentioned just for the structured one, because it looks like that was what was dealt to Africa, to say you go to that structured one. And even some aspects we had within the structured ones, like hands-on, we're
mhm.
at a point not there anymore as we started. This is why I wanted to go into and see what you think about.
Okay. By the time, like I did say, nothing is static, it's dynamic.
Yes,
You understand?
yes.
So by the time I came in as Minister of Education, we
Mm.
were trying to embrace technology. Yeah?
Okay,
Eh?
okay.
We are trying to embrace technology. mm, by the time.
Yes,
And you see, some other countries embrace this technology before us. Huh?
yes,
We are
yes.
going to embrace technology. That means that if we are embracing technology, eh, then
Mhm.
we should also embrace it in the way of impacting knowledge to the younger generation.
Yes,
So using technology to impact knowledge. Hmm? I go
yes.
back a little bit. You see, before when people were farming, because it's also part of education,
Mhm.
people were doing before every person was doing everything manually. Then came
Mhm.
the industrial revolution. The industrial
Mhm.
revolution removed most of the manual work and machines took over. Machines.
Yes.
Then from the industrial revolution, suddenly technology came in. You
Mhm.
understand? Eh?
Mhm.
Then most of those machines are being replaced by what? Technology.
Yes.
And now, even artificial intelligence is also replacing technology. You
Yes.
understand? Fine. And this is all part of it. So when I came in, it was at the time we were now embracing technology. Fine. So, and as Minister of Education, where we have to teach people, I make sure that we embrace technology. So let me tell you some of the things, what I mean by that. Before I
Yes.
came in 2005, that was 20 years ago. We are talking about
Mhm.
20 years ago. Before
Yes.
I came in, most of the processes were done manually. After writing your exam in JAMP, you get your result. You will go several miles away to your university or your tertiary institution to check your results.
Mm.
Then you go back. You go back. They will tell you you have to pay your school fees on so and so date. You will travel again to the school to pay your school fees. Then they
Mhm.
will tell you you resume on so and so day. Huh? Fine.
Mhm.
You will travel again for resumption. But these are things you could do online without going there physically. You
Yes.
understand? Because when you continue traveling up and down, you see, we lost a lot of students by motor accident and all whatnot. And
Mm.
these are things that we could have avoided if we had, if we use technology to do some of these processes. So when I
Yes.
mean the first thing that I did was to make sure that most of the processes in our various universities were online. Fine.
Mm.
Eh? I am not criticizing the people that came before me because that was what was online. Was on
Yes.
what was
No, the intention is not to do that. No, we're not doing that. Yes.
so because that was what was in place at that time. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Even since I left 20 years ago, I uh,
Mm-hmm.
we are talking about 20, what I met on ground 20 years ago.
Yes.
The world has equally moved more digital than they were then. So
Yes.
new innovations will also come in, into education. Fine.
So let me ask you right there because you just prompted that. This is a 20-year gap now that you started thinking about technology. And today,
Mhm,
20 years later,
mhm,
we are still crawling. What kind of, I mean, you had identified the gap
mhm,
as, we needed technology and technological advancement.
mhm,
There is a gap
mhm,
between where we were and where everybody is now.
mhm.
Do you think our young ones are getting now the curriculum they need to bridge that gap that we just talked about?
My sister, they are. You see, I will say there's something I want to say about education because
Mm.
I think we are not making progress. But I tell you, we are making a lot of progress. And I will get back to your question. Like,
Okay.
for example, hmm,
Mm.
20 years ago, 20 years ago, we had on the whole 75 universities in
Okay.
Nigeria. That was what we had 20 years, 2005. We had 75 universities. That is
Mm.
either federal owned, state owned, or private owned universities. But
Mm.
today, 20 years later, 2025, we have 69 federal universities, 67 state owned universities, and 148 universities,
Wow.
making a total of 284 universities. You understand?
Wow.
Eh? As of
Wow.
seven
And counting, right?
and counting, as opposed to 75 that we had 20 years ago. We made progress in that direction. We have. Are you
In
understanding?
creating infrastructure for learning, but the
Exactly.
question is, I know you're going to that
No, no,
point.
I am
What have
coming.
we done with that?
No, no, no,
Yes.
I am coming. Fine.
Yes.
It's a lot of progress that we have made. Do you understand? So,
Yes.
education before was on the exclusive list. Do you understand?
Yes.
That means that the federal government controlled everything about education. But by 2003, education got on the concurrent list.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we are talking about education, we look at it, get all the facts. We get all the facts about education.
Mm.
Education now on the concurrent list. Do you understand? Hmm?
Mhm.
So that is why you have straight education controlled by their various states. And you have
So,
private.
so when you say concurrent list, for those who don't know, what does that mean? Please.
That means that, like the states, the governors are executive governors, and the states are on their own. Huh?
Okay.
So they are free to have to run their educational system the way they do it. But then
Oh, okay.
Do you understand? And then the
Yes.
federal, the private people too, have,
Yes.
you have private schools, you have
Yes.
private, you have you have private state-owned institutions of higher learning, both
Yes.
primary school and this thing. So
Yes.
now, hmm, what is the role of the Federal Ministry of Education? That is what
Mhm.
we have to understand
Yes.
first and
Yes.
foremost. Fine. So that we know if we are putting blame or if we are putting accolade, we know where it is coming from. You understand?
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct.
Federal Ministry of Education. What is the role of the Federal Ministry of Education? Federal Ministry of formulates policies. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Formulate policies, develop guidelines, and ensure standardization of education. You understand? Mhm. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
They will formulate the policies. Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
They develop the guidelines and then they ensure standardization.
Okay. Do they monitor that? They're supposed to monitor that,
They
right?
do, they do, they do, they do.
Okay.
Fine. Mhm.
Okay.
But then when they formulate these policies, fine, the various states, we go to the implementation of these policies in their various states,
Okay.
government areas. You understand?
Okay.
Because
Mm-hmm.
these schools are owned by them. They are not owned by the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Eh? So how are they how are they um, implementing these policies that have been that have been formulated by the Federal Ministry of Education? Do you understand? Eh? Fine.
Let me understand that, Professor, a little bit. Let me clarify that to my own understanding. So, the federal government, like you said, is responsible for making the policies
Yes.
across on what education is supposed to be within the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Yes. Mhm.
But is that just for the ones in the state, like state owned and federally owned,
All
or
of
I'm hearing that now. Maybe I got you wrong. That because some of them are private universities, in as much as there's policies out there, they are not obligated to follow these policies. Am I right?
yeah, they are supposed to. They are supposed to follow the policies, the
Okay.
line policies by the federal
Okay.
administration. Yes. You understand?
Okay.
So fine.
Yes.
But implementation of these policies, you cannot force, like I've told you, how many universities we have in the country today.
Yes. Yes.
And then of the 289, only 69 are federal universities. Fine.
Yes.
So if the state and the private ones do not implement the guideline or the policy that is set out by the federal government, you
Mhm.
don't hold the federal government responsible because they are entities on their own. You see, every
Why
government,
not? Why not? I mean, if it is monitored, I know they don't pay them anything, but this is where some are subsidized. In Western countries, for example, private schooling is okay. Even homeschooling is okay, but those number of credits that every student is supposed to complete, the curriculum, everything are really monitored. They are they don't care how many private schools you really work towards that and implement that, and it's monitored because maybe funding is also in some cases subsidized. I'm not sure about that, but there is that's stringent aspect. What I'm hearing from you is that that may not be the case with Nigerian school.
no, no. What we are saying is most times we try to compare what happens abroad with what is happening in Nigeria. You see,
Okay.
our cultures are the same. Then
Yes.
our cultures are the same. Our cultures are different. Yeah,
Different. That's what I thought. Okay.
our cultures are different. And you do things within the confines of your culture. Yeah, you understand me? Fine. You see,
Yes, I
like
do.
when I'm talking about policies, there are broad-based policies that every person must confine it. Going back
Okay.
a bit, by the time I came in as Minister of Education. What was it? And we are not quite, we had not quite embraced technology. Fine.
Okay.
The means of even writing our JAMB, which is equivalent to your SAT out there in
Yes.
the States, was by what? Paper and pencil. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand? Paper
Mm-hmm.
and but today we have gone to computer-based test. There is nothing like paper and pencil anymore. Okay? By today, 2005 was paper and pencil. Uh-huh. But
Mm-hmm.
I think we came to full computer based by 2013. I think in 2011, we went to the dual mode. Some people chose paper and pencil, while some others chose computer based. But today it is full computer based in writing our exams
Exams.
to our tertiary institutions. That is also
Wow.
some progress that it's no longer paper and pencil. It is that means we are also um, going on with with the
It's an
rest of the
advancement, right?
world.
Yeah.
It's an advancement, and
Yeah.
whether we like it or not, a lot of advancement has happened. uh,
Yeah.
Education in Nigeria, and it is still happening. It is
But
still
let me ask, I have a question for you. Sorry. Um, when you say, it really excites me. It warms my heart that we are going digital
yeah.
fully with our students.
Mhm,
But as also an educator,
mhm,
and I've heard from some of these students also, you know that I talk to these young ones, not only in the US, but all over the world, including our home base. How do you then get, I am assuming every school has computers. The federal government, the private schools, everyone has institutionalized some kind of computerized training so that these young ones who are going to take these exams are now conversant with the use of computers for training or for doing exams, including making sure that there is proper electricity and everything surrounding all this. And there are computers in schools for these young ones to practice in. Am I assuming wrong?
um, like I did say, education is on the concurrent list. You understand?
Okay. Okay.
Most of these people that are writing these exams, they are writing it from secondary school, right? Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
Of the over um, over close to uh, 300,000 secondary schools that we have. Hmm?
Mm.
Area today, more than 300,000 secondary schools we have in Nigeria across the whole country. What the federal government has there now is only 115 secondary schools. The rest,
Mm.
private schools, the rest are what? Um, uh, uh, Either owned by the states or by the local governments or by individuals or by religious bodies, you know. Um,
And they
that
all write the same exam, the same
Yeah, they write the same exam.
entrance
Before
exam.
you get into any university in Nigeria, you must write JAMB. That
Yes.
and then that JAMB is computer based. Fine. I know 2005, 2006. We tried to the One Laptop per Child initiative, mhm,
Mm-hmm.
which was started by Professor Ponte of the United
Mm-hmm.
States of America. And that 2006, I was Honorable Minister of Education, and I talked with him, and And in line with what the global best practices at that time, where every person going to write a computer-based test, I now felt that the best thing for us to do was to um, uh, get Nigerians involved in owning at least a child owning a laptop. That was where it was called One Laptop Initiative. And we would have deployed them at the JSS1 level. And then we were looking at it. That was in 2006. We are now looking at it that by 2015, we would have gone complete computer-based. By then, every Nigerian child would have had access to a laptop. Fine.
But that doesn't. But that didn't happen, right? It didn't happen.
No, we committed to about 1 million copies of those laptops, and they tried to make them in a green, white, green color. But unfortunately, um, sometime in 2007, I wasn't there as the Minister of Education. I didn't see them in Nigeria. I saw them in some other countries. But then, like I did say, education is on the concurrent list. We still went ahead.
Wait a minute. The same computers showed up in other countries.
Yeah, that's what I saw them in some other countries.
Oh, God have mercy.
I saw them in Ghana, in Libya, and in Rwanda, precisely.
The same computer that you know.
Yeah. That was what I.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's forget about that.
We're
But
not dwelling on that at this
yeah,
moment. We just want to make life better for those children
then,
that are now bent on doing this.
but then, you see, because education was on the concurrent list, I must say then that later, this was an idea, it was a policy that had come up. So even if we were not able to see it through, even if we were not able to um, it was a policy, and a lot of people keyed into it. I know very well that FCT then, the Federal Capital with their local government areas that were not under the Federal Ministry of Education, they keyed into this one laptop per child initiative, and then in laptops for for their for their students at that level. Right?
Yeah.
Then also some other states, some other private school
Schools.
kid
Yeah.
kid uh, kid into getting laptop because they knew that we are going to migrate to complete computer-based test. So they keyed into it, and they got them for their students, and that kind of thing. And I must say, let me say this here, indeed, fine.
Mm.
Like if you see what is happening around the whole world today, um, most of our students, our children,
Mm.
who do their primary and secondary school education in Nigeria
Mm.
and end up coming to America to do or going to Europe to go and
Mhm.
do their undergraduate studies. Most of them, they end up making first class in
Yes.
their fields of
Yes.
that means that our the level of our education back home uh, is not completely bad. Do you
It's
understand?
not. It's not. And let me let me interject interject there.
Okay. Look at even what has happened recently. Look at the feat. of these young students from Anambra State. Uh-huh. They went to Europe and they were placed. They beat everybody. And as if that was not enough, the young students from Edo State, that was a few days ago, you also saw the feat they performed. Do you understand? But
I
unfortunately,
do. But if you go in, Prof, if you go into those schools that prepare those children,
yes, yes,
I mean, there are so many factors.
yes.
They may have this, or they may even have teachers who go beyond. I mean, we have a lot of rote learning going on.
Yeah.
And we will tell you that some of them are values from, the homes,
Exactly.
emphasizing education and the way the young ones. But at a point, they need some kind of leverage
That,
from government to help. That is what we're saying.
that was why I started by defining education to you. All of us are involved in education. You, as a mother, you are involved in education. You are the first teacher. The mother is the first teacher any child has. The
Yes.
mother is the first teacher. You understand?
Yeah.
The mother is the first teacher any child has. So if you have not taught, there are certain things, if you have not taught your child, no school can teach your child that.
That's
That
true. And the
yeah,
emphasis you lay on that,
yeah.
expectations.
Is that emphasis that you lay on your child that will propel the child? You understand? Uh-huh.
Yes.
But see, most times in Nigeria, we neglect the upbringing of our children to one thing or the other. Uh-huh. And
Mm.
I tell people, every other thing can wait, but the upbringing of a child cannot wait. Now, every other thing can wait, but the education of your child cannot wait. Do you understand? The
Yeah,
education of your child cannot wait. Fine. Uh-huh.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Do you understand? So if we are talking about education, if we are talking about education, we have to look at education at the broad level. You see, some people, they've not brought up their children very well. Their children have learned bad manners from them and that kind of thing. Mhm. Some children may come from abusive homes, that kind of thing. Uh-huh. Parents abusing their wives, and the children are picking it up. They are not happy.
And vice versa.
Fine,
Yes.
and
Yes.
vice
I am
versa.
trying to balance things out. Yes.
Yes, and then when they get to school, you have not taught them anything. Maybe
Yes.
your child is stubborn. He picks things. He does everything. Then he gets to school. You're expecting that teacher to make magic. The magic that
Yes.
not do in school. Eh? And before you know it, you are now doing what? Blaming everybody.
Yes.
Do you understand? You are blaming
Yes.
everybody. Do you understand? Eh?
So
And then
the parents have a blame. Some of them now even contribute to fraudulent exam practices because they now maybe buy papers for their
exactly.
children or pay for their placements in higher institutions of learning instead of inducing them to work hard. That's another aspect that we have to put on parents as well.
Yeah, for example, I knew when I was going for my when I was nominated as a minister and I went to the Senate and they were now asking me for my clearance. There was this question they asked me. They said, um, uh, look at corruption all over the place. Fine.
Mhm.
And if we clear you to become a minister,
Mm,
how are you going to tackle the problem of corruption? Huh?
mm,
Tackle the corruption in the society since you're a minister, if you are going in as Minister of Education. Then I did tell them that the mistake that most of us make is that when we talk about corruption, that we think is about giving money or taking money. No. Uh-huh. I told them that woman in the market who sells her rice or gari with a wrong measure is corrupt.
Correct. Sure,
Eh?
sure.
I
I
said,
agree.
that mother who will carry her child even for to get into the nursery school or primary school, will carry her child to that place, trying to influence the teachers in that place to take the child who is not even qualified to get into the school is corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That pastor, that bishop or whatever it is, or in the church, who will look at people with questionable character and give them knighthood, eh,
Mm-hmm.
type, is corrupt. You understand?
Yes.
The traditional ruler who does what? Eh? Who will look at people with questionable character, eh? Because they
Mm.
have money and then give them chieftaincy title. It's also corrupt. You understand? Eh? It's corrupt. Fine. Mhm. And
So we're swimming in a notion in a
I
in
am
a nation of corruption
I am
in all aspects.
fine.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that lecturer who will go on strike, who will go on strike for 6 months
Mm.
without teaching the children, eh, turns back and collects his salary for those six
Mm.
months that
Mm.
the- without teaching the children, collects the money. It's also corrupt.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's also corrupt. And I did tell them that what happens, uh and because one of the limitations of the social sciences as a science is that it deals with human beings
Mm-hmm.
and problems relating to human beings, you cannot subject them to experimentation. You
Yeah.
understand?
Oh.
Like indeed, if they lock you up in a similar room, and they lock me and 10 others in similar room, and then they're watching us from a place,
Mhm.
what we are going to do in that room for 2 hours is different from what every other person. They're not going to be the same. You understand?
That's true.
Eh?
That's
Because
true.
and because you cannot subject human beings to experimentation, and that means that you cannot come out with an empirical formula as to how to solve problems of human beings because we're all different. And because you
I
cannot
agree.
an
I,
experimental formula, there is no formula to curb the menace.
corruption. Hmm.
But we have to do what? We continue praying and continue living by example. You understand? Fine. So, how many of us are living by example? You see, and by living, if you are living by the example that you are setting up, uh, fine, people are learning from you because people are learning from you. You don't have to be in government, you understand, to do what? Eh? To make sure that
So
people are well educated.
can
Mhm.
I put then this
Yes,
scenario in front of you? I have
yes,
this scenario. If you give me a minute, I will place them, and then you tell me what you think.
okay.
We have mentioned the miseducation of our young, and you and I have agreed, and you have shared some really relevant inputs into why these are. One of the
Mhm.
points you made that I am happy about is that despite all that, our children go abroad and compete even within Nigeria, and we're doing well. But we are also seeing that it's not because of um, just the grace of God. It could be a lot of factors. Maybe some of the schools that are doing well um, are being given such opportunities of equipments and tools. But then I compare a school in Abuja. One of
Mhm.
them was doing prom night the other day. That is not our part of our culture, but borrowed. But it was beautiful, and
Mhm.
compare that to one small village in MBC, for example, where you and I, are born. that has this, the roof is flying off whenever there is a strong wind. The rain is beating the children, and they don't even have desks. They don't have chairs, not to talk about computers. And the teachers have not been paid for months.
Okay.
And we are asking them. And then we look at the curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
where nothing in that curriculum is preparing them for what goes on in the community. They cannot even, I mean, one of the things that we learned one time was to even change our tires as growing up. But these children cannot do that nowadays because nobody is teaching them that, not even to cook. We used to have, somebody mentioned the other day, rural science in the classroom. That is no more. Economic science.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have that the government cannot subsidize. And I'm glad you gave the history up front. We've talked about the parents' input in that aspect of miseducation.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers, we are saying that they go on strike, but on the other token, that some of them are not getting their salaries, and some of them are not even being paid pension that they have worked years for. And
Mm-hmm.
then we have the students who have given up because they're being called names. They can't even really compete. It's a big world out there. And it's not like in 2020, 2005, when the technology is not broad everywhere. But we are trying to raise children who compete with the rest of the world. Now, the
Yeah.
question that I wanted you to pick into, or do you agree with all these premises that I'm trying to share?
Yeah, I agree with them to such
But
an
but you have hesitation. Where don't you agree with me?
no, no. A few things I want to shed light to you. Fine.
Okay. Okay.
You see, um, Nigeria, I go back a little bit in history. Nigeria
Okay.
is a signatory to different conventions. Do you understand?
Okay.
Hmm? Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
we're a signatory to
Mm-hmm.
conventions. Fine. And sometimes it was even in the days of Abacha. Huh? So
Mm-hmm.
we understand some of this history. Uh-huh. It was at Jomtin that they all met and decided that by the year 2015, that was in the 90s, in the days of Abacha, that by
Mm-hmm.
the year 2015, we would have achieved what the world termed education for all, EFA. You
Okay.
understand? Uh-huh. That we would have achieved education for all, EFA. That was where they were calling it. Fine,
Yes.
fine. And what is this EFA? That every child from age 6 must spend the next 9 years in school. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
means you would have spent after age 6, you get into primary school for another 6 years, and then 3 years for junior secondary school, which
Mm-hmm.
we term what we term junior secondary school in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria. That now
Mm-hmm.
became what we call basic education. Because basic education in Nigeria is what? Huh? Hmm? From primary 1 to JSS 3. So that word,
Okay.
basic education, the universal basic ed is not a Nigerian coinage. That's the mistake that many of us made. It came
Ah,
from that process. Fine.
ah,
Then,
okay.
then when Abacha came back, and then you know, no matter how you do it, the first 9 years in school must be spent in a school, and that that school must be. They talked about equal access. You understand? Equal access
Mm-hmm.
to school, equal access, and they talked about equal access that both boys and girls we have access, to basic ed,
Yes.
and it has to be of high quality. You
Yes.
understand? So you now go home to your various homes, to your various countries. You see, in the United States, you go junior high to senior high, and you get into the university, isn't it? Fine. Eh? If you
Yes.
like, you spend all the time. But in Nigeria, we do primary school and we do secondary school. Fine. And in many other parts of Africa, it's the same thing that we are doing in Nigeria that they do. Okay?
Mm.
So at that time, Abacha looked at it and said, hey, how can we achieve this by 2015?
Mm.
The money we are getting, um, we are getting uh, um, um, through appropriation to the various to education will not make it. So
Mm.
Abacha introduced what we call the education tax fund. You understand? Hmm?
The
It,
education passport.
yes,
Okay.
education tax fund (ETF).
Oh, fast fund. Okay, sorry.
ETF, education tax fund.
Tax
Yeah,
fund.
tax,
Yes.
yeah, tax fund. That means
UTF,
the
education tax fund.
ETF,
ETF. Why do I keep
E
messing up?
education
Sorry.
tax fund. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm? It was
Okay.
introduced by Abacha. Fine.
Okay.
And Abacha did what? They were now taxing the various um, companies. They were paying heavy taxes. Uh-huh.
Mm.
Even civil servants and every person, part of the tax we were paying was going into education. You
Mm.
know, fine. And then at that time, in the days as Abacha and days of Abacha and Shonuko,
Mm-hmm.
that came, no, in the days of Abacha and the other man that came after him briefly, Abdul Salam.
Abdul
If you
Salam.
if you go to schools in the East, you will find them renovating some primary schools because population keeps increasing every day, isn't it?
Okay. Yes.
And they needed additional classrooms in the primary schools to take care of the increasing population. You will see them renovating schools and even building a few places that they called, and they will put it there, ETF 1990 something. Do you understand? Eh?
Mm.
They are there in most of our villages across nation. Then we needed some form, and then since it was military, there was no legislation on it. So by the time Obasanjo came in, Obasanjo realized that we needed to legislate, we needed some form of legislation
On
for us
that on
to
that policy, yes.
act on that policy. It has to
Mm.
be legislated. Do you understand? So fine. And Obasanjo now looked at it, and that was 1999, 1999, 2000. Looked at it and said, oh, maybe 2015 is by the corner. 2015 is by the corner. We will not be able to achieve this by just the money coming from the taxes that we are taxing people. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? Hmm? So he got the World Bank to be involved. So the World Bank came in with some funds that we are going directly. That but they started by putting up two um, additional buildings in each local government, two in each local government across all the local governments in the country. That
Mm.
was the first time this send down the rain. This roofing sheet, not the
Okay. That's what they call it.
that they were calling it send down the rain. And they built
Okay.
two in each local government area. That was when Professor Deniro was the Minister of Education,
Education.
between
Mm-hmm.
that 1999 and 2000. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
The state governors came and said, you understand? Eh?
Mm.
State
Mm.
governors came and said, why should this contract be awarded from the Federal Ministry of Education? That it is part of their dividends of democracy, that the money should be given to them. Do you understand?
Mm. Mm.
Instead of the contracts being awarded from the Federal Ministry of Education. They
Wow.
took us to court. Obasanjo lost. Obasanjo took them to the um, appeal court. He
Mm.
lost. He took them to the Supreme Court. He lost. Fine. So the money was now handed over. to the state governors. And I wonder what they have done since then. I don't know whether you
Oh.
coming. You see, I am coming because it's good for us to know actually what is happening. Then, Obasanjo was now, he did not come up with this legislation until 2004. Coming up with this legislation by 2004, he came with what we, because he had to put a bill to the National Assembly, and then that bill was not just about um, um, uh, was not just about making sure that we attend this and that, because you can't attend them without money. So
Yes.
2%, he put up a bill where 2% of our consolidated revenue, 2% of our consolidated revenue goes into basic education. All
Mhm.
the money that Nigeria makes, are we making it from oil? Are we making it from whatever we're able to export or whatever
Cocoa
it is?
farm. Yeah.
2% of it, that revenue goes into basic education.
Education.
The UBE Act of 2004. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
When you add of that money, that 2% of that, 98% goes directly to the states. You understand?
Mm.
Only 2% is retained at the federal level. You understand?
Yeah.
Then what are they using this 2% at the federal level to do? They had 36
Federal schools.
no, not 36 federal schools, that people coming from commissioners of UBE from the various
Okay.
states who will
Uh-huh.
not come to federal government, and then the policies, they will not say this is the policy, this is what you are supposed to do, then you carry it to your states and go and do it. Are you understanding me?
Ah.
So the remaining 98% goes directly to the states, and then of this 98%, 5% of it was meant to be 1 meal a day while in school. You understand? Because
For every child in school.
child in school, because you cannot be talking about equal access when when some children will come to school hungry and go back hungry.
Yes.
Eh, eh,
Yes.
are you understanding me? How
Yes.
some children will come back to school? Remember, some children have been orphaned by HIV, by AIDS, by
Yes.
tuberculosis, even by malaria. You understand? And you are talking about equal access. Fine. And part of this UBE Act of 2004 was what? That you do what? A certain percentage is for the physically challenged. A certain percentage of it is for school uniform. Is for school uniform.
So these were all provisions
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
are,
Before,
if
before,
implemented, would
yes,
have been
yes, I am.
a breather for parents.
Yes, I am coming. Because you are talking about schools in Mbise. I am coming. Do you understand?
Okay.
Eh? Fine. Mhm. So, a certain percentage is for teacher training. A
Hmm.
certain percentage is for what? A certain is for infrastructure in the schools.
Mhm.
Everything was completely laid down.
Budgeted, yeah, or
Eh?
earmarked.
No child was supposed to pay a dime,
Mm.
and they were supposed to have 1 meal a day while in school.
Mm.
You understand? And then what was it all about? And then you see, these things were not implemented until 2005 when I came in as the Minister of Education.
Mhm.
I started the 1 meal a day while in school. Incidentally, it was launched on the 26th, on Monday, the 26th of September 2005. And what was it all about? If we can give them 1 meal a day while in school, fine, we will attract them. If the children know they will eat 1 meal a day in school,
They'll
if they
come.
come to school, eh,
Yeah,
they
parents
will,
will at least send them. Yes.
yeah, they will, even those ones that were orphans, they will come to school. and they will be retained because they have 1 meal a day while they're in school. And if they are retained, then they will complete their basic education. You understand me? It was launched. Fine. Is it by this is a policy. Now, by who? Federal Ministry of Education. Fine. And like I did say at that time, that this policy to guarantee the sustainability, that it has to be school based but community driven. You understand me? School
Mhm.
based but community driven. Ndi, my sister, Nambi say where me and you come from. Fine. You will see people. Okay, during the time of vegetables, they will come to the market with ogo. They will come to the market with oha or oboro. Eh? They are not
Mhm.
able to sell them. Eh? They leave them there. But then, children in our schools there are going hungry. Are you understanding me? And they need that
Yes.
vegetable. So do you see the essence of that? This is not a policy by the Federal Ministry of Education in 2005. And we launched it and we went round. Was it sustained by the states? It was not sustained by the states. And these funds go directly to the states. So if they go directly to the states, the governors collect it. What are they doing?
So
What
the
are
responsibility lies on them, and there
the
could be misappropriation of those funds.
government
Yes.
areas who collect these funds 2% of the consolidated revenue? What are they doing with it? Is there any school in Mbise where me and you come from where they are eating 1 meal a day while in school?
No, no,
There
I
are any
haven't heard.
school in
You know.
Mbise, is there any school in Mbise where they are giving them free books and free this thing? But some
Mm-mm.
schools elsewhere in some states are benefiting from that. It's their governors. Are you understanding me?
So there should be accountability
To be
requested from the MBCNs to those
yes,
who are responsible for this.
exactly.
Shouldn't there be?
Do you understand me? Eh?
Yes.
Because these funds, eh, the governors go to collect it.
Mhm.
2004. They were collecting it in 2000 when I was Minister of Education, and I'm sure they're still collecting it.
It's
So
mind-boggling that
what are
people
they,
are collecting those funds and
so
watching
what are
students being beaten by the rain in the schools.
so what are they doing with it? Which additional and I can tell you in Mbise,
How
even
do they
where
sleep at night? I don't know.
even the six that were the three Mbise local government areas that were built during the Adeniro regime. Imo State had 27 has 27 local government areas, and then 54 of those schools were built. After that, has any been built? Even the funds they collected, the governors collected from from the money coming from the World Bank. What did they do with it? What did they do with it? So we should know. You see, um,
Who would ask, Prof, who would ask these questions to the government? And why wouldn't the federal government ask these questions of the states? I guess there is nobody from below, from the bottom, like fellow MBC people, like we're talking about MBC, asking those questions up to our local government area administrators,
okay,
who in their own turn will ask the governors
my
of
sister,
Imo State, for example, and then on, right?
what happened that okay, probably today you didn't know about this until today, isn't it? You did not know about this until today that
That
we're
is
having.
why I dig in the questions, because I
Yes,
have, and I don't care who does what.
yes,
Because I hear the complaints of these young ones. Now, for example, what we are talking about, JAMB. Recently it's now no longer the scoring people have. It's going to be ranking to get them into schools. Who came up with that, and for what?
no, no, no,
And
no.
now who
Let
are
me
you discrediting? You're talking about the children who are doing their best with nothing.
no, 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 no. Let me explain a few things to you. Let me explain
Yes.
a few things to you. My sister, JAM does not admit anybody into any of the institutions.
Money
JAM,
does.
no, 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 no. No, it's not JAM. It has nothing to do with JAM. It is your vice chancellors in your various universities.
Ah.
Are you?
Ah.
And then what
So
are
this
they?
corruption, the corruption thing spreads.
It is them. They are worse. They are worse than people that they are. Let me tell you what happens. Eh? Because we have to be honest with ourselves. If you go
Yes.
to our universities today, you see, JAMB will only conduct that exam. JAMB does not say whether you have passed or you have failed. JAMB never tells you you have passed or you have failed. You understand? Eh?
Mm,
Fine. Hmm?
mm,
It is the universities who will determine whom they will take.
mm,
But then the guideline that was set in 2005 was I introduced the post UTME screening test. You understand?
mm, mhm,
Why did I introduce the post UTME screening test? Mind you, I had taught for 25 years in a tertiary institution
mm,
before the ministerial appointment. And I knew that there was no correlation between JAM score and actual performance while in their first year.
mm,
Thank you. And before that time, what we had was endless admission processes. Do you understand? Hmm?
mm.
And we had all kinds of lists flying all over the place. The vice chancellor's list, the minister's list, the governor's list,
Yes.
commissioner's list, name it. All this list was flying all over the place. And it was not a question of, like we say it, onye ma mmadụ, ma onye ma onye.
Mhm.
Are you understanding me? Eh?
Yes.
Onye ma mmadụ. So if you didn't know onye ma mmadụ, if you don't know, if you ma mmadụ and you don't know onye ma mmadụ, that means that
Yes.
your child can never get into the university.
So the
So
poor man's child who doesn't
yeah,
know nobody, anybody in that is just left hanging, right?
fine. And then I looked at the law that established JAMB and everything.
Mm,
Mhm. And the law said for them, part of the job of JAMB is what? Placement of suitably qualified candidates
mhm,
in collaboration with the tertiary institutions. That means JAMB does not admit for you. Do you understand? Eh? And
mhm,
was not admitting for them. Eh? In
mm.
collaboration with the tertiary institutions, after due consideration given to the tertiary institutions by their proprietor or any other relevant authority. You understand? Fine.
Mhm.
As the then Minister of Education, I was representing the president, who was the proprietor of the federal um, uh, um, universities, the federal institutions of higher learning. And as Minister
Yes.
of Education, I was that relevant authority for the state and the privately owned. And
Mm,
then for the state and the privately owned in the institutions. Then I gave them my due consideration. What was what? That they should conduct the post UTME screening test to make sure that they have qualified students inside in their institutions because the outcome, how do you rate any university? Is the outcome of their students,
the
isn't it?
students. Yes.
Harvard is what is still today because of the quality of students that they produce,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
So the only way you can rate a Nigerian university is the outcome of their what of their the quality of the students that they are
Yeah,
going
the
to
KPI.
fine.
KPI.
So
Yes.
fine. So if you have qualified children in your institution, eh, intelligent children, uh, it only goes to prove that they will also do well in school. You understand?
Mm, mhm.
Not people who buy admission hmm, and all whatnot. So that was why I introduced. And I tell you something. I tell you something. Ndidi. That year I did tell you we had 75 universities in the country.
Mm,
And using the lecturers working through the NUC, which is the relevant parastatal under the Federal Ministry of Education.
Mm.
They went and determined the carrying capacity of those 75 universities we had in the country.
Mm.
Yes. And discovered that we could admit 148,000 students. Do you know at the end of that exercise, despite the 1 point something million that took JAM that year, 2005, we could not find 148,000 students to admit. What we found was 80% of that. And that was what we admitted, and the heavens did not fall. You understand?
Really?
It did not fall.
Wow.
And we're talking about education. Fine. That was the first time in the history, in the near history of recent history of matriculation in
Mhm.
of our Nigerian universities, where I don't want to mention the names of those universities.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hmm? They had a matriculation exam, they had a matriculation exercise, and nobody was killed. Do you understand?
Yes.
It was the same in some universities where they had their matriculation here. No car was stolen in that city. Do you understand?
Yes.
Eh?
Yeah.
Mention names. Fine. And the heavens did not fall. So these are what the policy laid down by the government. So what are we having today in most of our universities? And you go and check it out. You go and check it out. We're having endless admission processes.
Mhm.
You understand me? We're having endless admission processes. You can call them at home to find out whether what I'm saying is true. I
No,
know,
it's
so
I
I'm
mean, what you're saying.
I know some institutions that started admission in October last year. In October last year, they continued till April this year. And then a week later after admission, they started their first semester exam. Is it the
Mm.
federal government? It's the vice chancellors. Do you
But that
understand?
is wrong.
It
You know,
is wrong.
since
It is wrong. We
I
are
think I
again.
think that aspect I think we're going to talk about that university aspect more
I am
sometime.
coming again, Ndidi. And then
Mm.
children are they admitting?
Yeah.
Children and
Yeah.
your children. And then
Yeah.
who are the people giving them money to get them admitted that late? It is the parents. Me,
Yes.
you understand? Eh?
Yeah.
Is it the Federal Ministry of Education? Eh? It is not. Do you
Big
understand?
sis. Yes. I have to. I mean, we could talk like ordinarily when we talk, we
No, no,
talk
but
about this for hours. But due
let me
to the
say,
time factor, what is the last thing you have to share
okay, let me tell you
briefly?
briefly.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yes,
Fine.
please.
The Ministry of Education, the federal
Mm.
government, eh,
Yes.
is taking education to the next level. Do you
Okay.
understand? There are
Okay.
things that they are doing, which
Mhm.
which I don't even know why they don't even publicize what they are doing. Eh? Fine. Like there are a lot of things, and I will go to it, and it will interest you to know. Huh? Fine.
Mm.
They are talking about equitable access to basic education, and they're doing a lot to that. Fine.
Okay.
Yes, equitable access to basic education. That is just what it is. And then under that, they have increased levels of literacy, uh,
Okay.
the critical thinking and skills across all levels. Fine.
Okay.
And they are going back to the school feeding program. Fine.
Okay.
They are looking at getting more of the girls and the vulnerable in our population back to
Mhm.
Cool, fine. They are also talking about inclusive quality education and learning outcomes. Do you understand?
Yes.
About that. Under that, fine. What have they done? Look at the STEM subject. What is
Ah,
the STEM? They are that's the
and for
science,
those who don't know, STEM is science, technology,
ma-
engineering, and mathematics.
and
STEM,
they
STEM.
added medical science. In Nigeria now, we added medical sciences because it is
Okay.
quite distinct for us. Fine. They are
Okay.
looking at medical sciences. They're also looking at technical and vocational education
That's
training.
very important. Yes.
Yes, fine. And I'll tell you what they have done so far. Fine. They are looking at teacher production and professionalism. Do you understand?
Ah,
Yes.
so it,
Curriculum.
it looks like they're borrowing leaf from Governor-elect Soti of Abia State because it looks like he's implementing all those now.
I am coming. Governor-elect Soti is implementing the policy of the Federal Ministry of Education. Are you
Wonderful.
No, 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 no. That means that Governor Oti is implementing the policies of the federal. What are we doing? Is policy at the Federal Ministry of
Yes.
Education. So
Yes.
I tell you what they are doing. Fine, and they've looked at curriculum review and upgrade. And
Yes.
the most important, digitalization of data in the Ministry of Education.
Not
Yeah,
only that, Big says, I think our curriculum needs to reflect
I
not
am
the British
no, no,
system,
no, no.
but what we
I,
are in Africa.
So I will tell you part of the things that they have, the part of the things that they're doing. And they're looking at, they've strengthened governance and management um, organization reforms of relevant institutions, especially most of the parastatals under them. And they're doing a lot on research, monitoring, and evaluation of most of their projects that are going on. And then what is it? Okay, under that inclusive quality education, you will not believe it. So in this their TVET, that is the technical and vocational education training. They already
Yes.
have 650,000 enrollees, people that have enrolled into that program, and upgraded 38 federal and state technical colleges nationwide. Fine.
But Prof, let me give you a pause there to
Mm.
ask where are these training going on? Because
So I am telling
in the rural areas, I don't hear anybody saying that they have. So because when you have opportunities like that, it doesn't trickle down to almost all the states. There are some certain states that pick up and go with it.
fine.
How does every
They are
state
doing it.
partake in this?
So fine. They are doing it. Why don't you ask me how many technical they have at the federal level? Do you understand me? They,
You
are,
tell me, please, if you know.
they,
I have no idea.
they have their schools owned by them, their technical colleges. It is no longer, you see, most of the technical colleges they have, they call it secondary and technical college. They've removed that secondary part of it for the past 3 years from the SS1 to SS3. And then it is purely vocational education that teaching there. So if you want to continue with secondary, you go to another federal government college and continue with your secondary education. Then this school is open to all Nigerians. It is open to all Nigerians. That's why they've been able to get 650,000 to enroll in 38 of these uh, technical former federal
Yeah.
technical distant school and technical colleges across the whole country. And what did they do? They have prioritized 35 trades following industrial gap. They were able to do this industrial gap. What is it that the industries, what do we need? Which trade do we have?
Yes,
And
yes,
revise the curriculum. You may not know,
yes.
but they are doing it. They've
Because
already
the next 5 years, what we have now is no longer going to be what we have then in the next 5 years. We look forward to that.
35 different trades. And I'm telling you, you can quote me, they're already doing it. And I know where they are doing it. You understand? They have also revised the curriculum to go with what they are doing. And have
Wonderful. It's good to hear that. It's refreshing
and
to hear that.
3,600 teachers in pedagogy and trade specific areas who are going to teach these people. And not only they're not going to give these people certification at the end of the day. You see, this uh, 35 different trades that they have, it includes POP making, all those small things. At the end of the
Yes.
day, you are getting a certificate, and then you can get you can get any job outside the country.
The
Do you understand?
country. Yes.
And
I mean,
every
I tell somebody that in corporate America, for example, when you pick up IT phone for any of the jobs to talk about your technical problems with your laptop or anything, you are talking to somebody in
yes,
their kitchen,
yes.
giving you direction as to how to fix this and that. Nigeria can do that with all the types. I think some of them are doing it, but they're not. But I want to ask you some particular question on this, talking
There is
about technical.
there is
Technical.
one that will also interest you before you ask me your question. In
Okay.
of STEM, these subjects, do you
Okay.
know they have expanded um, 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 opportunities for students who want to study nursing, the doctors, the pharmacists, to now what we have now in the universities across, they take 115,000 yearly now. And this is 4 times what they were taking before. You understand? So we are,
See, but this is where I also come in that
yes,
at the community level, because in Igbo we say "Agochala na ala nne."
yes,
In the
at the
at the community
community,
level, we had, for example, Rahena Technical that
yes,
could be benefiting from this now. I don't even hear whether it's still
we
alive or
have
not.
technical,
This is why I also commend somebody like the new bishop trying to institute a school of nursing going on. So our community has a lot to do with really pushing this up, right?
the question I ask you is this. Ahira Technical, is it a state-owned institution of learning or is it a federal institution of learning? So
I don't know. I
that
don't know.
is owned by the state. So the state should take, these people have come up with their policy. The states should go ahead and do it. Are you understanding?
And if the state is not doing it, who pushes the state?
Who
Because
pushes
the
it?
state knows that this is some things within our community, and this is coming from
Who
what does the community do to that effect?
are the states not autonomous? Are
They
the
are.
states not autonomous? Are the
I
states,
think
we
they
push
are.
the states, it is me and you that we push the state. It is
Okay.
and you that know that we go and ask questions. Hey, this is what is happening.
Okay.
You are getting this fund. What are you doing with it?
Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
We are getting this fund. What are you doing with it? Do you understand? Eh?
Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
This is you see a few months ago, huh? I did. I think I was on Arise Television or one of those television, and they were asking me questions. That was immediately after the Jump interview, and
Mhm.
everybody talking jump. I told them our problem in this country, education-wise, is not jump. Fine. What happens in our primary and in our secondary? What happens in our
Yeah.
tertiary institutions? Eh? Why are we talking about jump? What is happening in our universities? What is happening in our primary and secondary schools? And I did tell them, look at the UBE Act of 2004. Look at the funds going to the states. Uh-huh. What are they doing with it? We should ask questions. We should
I think
ask
people
questions.
are asking questions, but there are some. Again, we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yes,
Especially, look, going back to our MBC, because I keep going back to that because it's the grassroots that you
yes,
grow from going up. We
mm,
have vocational schools that were brought in from the federal government that our people, try to shut down because they just find a fault somehow. We're now talking about establishing universities where we have schools that even people in diaspora wanted to help rebuild, and the state government is like, take your hands off of that. That doesn't, that's not your responsibility. But how does anybody help that young one? That's who I'm advocating for, the young one in the classroom who is not getting what they're supposed to get from their elders.
Indeed, my sister, we should be asking questions. We should get in.
Yes.
We should get into proper engagement. And then when you are looking for people that are asking questions, look for people who are not asking, who are afraid to ask questions because of what they will get or what they
The raturatus,
find
yes.
apparatus. And I tell you this, I tell you also this,
Excuse me.
my sister, even with a few things that we are doing with Ohanese and all whatnot, fine. We find out that those of us who live at home, there is a limit to, to what we can do. Those
Yes.
of you in diaspora will be the conscience of India. Are you understanding me? Hmm?
Yes, if they are allowed, because
No, no,
anytime
no, no, no,
any
no, no, no,
diasporan
no, no, no,
person
no, 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 no,
raises
no,
a
no, no,
voice, somebody busy that you don't know what is going on at home,
no,
they forget that we are
no,
part of home.
no, 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 no. Nobody is stopping you. Eh? You should ask the right questions at home. You see, I'm there, I have my businesses at home. There's a way I can talk. Eh? And that has been my bane with most of the governors we've had in Imo State, except probably the one that is there now, except Hope Uzodinma. You understand?
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
yeah. All of them, to ask questions, they look at their businesses. They try to do one thing or the other to it.
Yeah,
And
people are selfish. That's selfish.
so, do you understand?
And
So,
it is not right.
of you who are in diaspora, you are very free to ask questions. And I thank God that we got to meeting each other. And we will continue to ask the relevant questions with facts. With facts.
Despite the fact that they beat us over the head and the insults that go with that.
No,
The
no.
thing is that that's one thing I like about. Oh, we don't really care. I mean, insult us anyways. I wouldn't insult back, but I keep asking my questions until something is done. We are all in this together.
My sister,
Um,
okay. Look at even, we don't even give ourselves, we are not even truthful to ourselves. Do you know how much this government has dispersed in form of um, money to the schools, net fund? Do you know
yeah,
they have dispersed about close to 49 billion naira to net fund?
really.
Yes, to over 293 students, 1,000 students in 196 institutions of higher learning to ensure that they have access to school, to ensure that they have access to school, and they did not discriminate against anybody. They are even coming, they are even coming with the anti-bullying, is it what they called it? I think
Yeah,
the
anti-bullying
anti-bullying
policies. Well, yes, because it's
policy
everywhere. Uh-huh.
to stop the growing menace of bullying in all our institutions. But you know, you have bullying in the primary school. You see, these are positive things that they are doing. Fine.
They
Eh?
are.
So fine. Will they go to know what is happening? They set up this policy. You understand? So it is good that we know what policy that. So if you are in a private school in a remote Mbise and somebody is doing bullying in that place, how will the Minister of Education hear from there? Do you understand?
That's why I like our conversation.
Yeah.
Communication is the key. People
It's
have no idea
so
until
fine.
you trickle it down to those who ought to know what is out there. People have no idea that federal government is doing this much. and that the state government is holding some things, and the local government, administrators are also to be held responsible for some of this. Parents are to be held responsible. Teachers,
To be held,
you know,
yes.
nobody is saying anything.
Nobody is
Hmm?
saying anything because they don't want to say. You understand?
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
don't want to say. And okay, okay, my sister, how many people know that we have a new course, GST 214, in our colleges of education that deals purely with what? With it's a 3 credit course
Of
that deals
course.
with what? Human
Hmm.
trafficking, which
Hmm.
you cannot graduate on unless you've learned it. And then these are products of our colleges of education who we now teach in our primary schools.
That's part of social work. Yeah.
Yeah, that is social work. So look
Yes.
at you know that human trafficking is the second most lucrative um, um, um,
Trade in Nigeria. Yes. In the world, actually.
so in the world is the
Yeah.
is the second most lucrative illegal business in the whole world, only coming after
Secondary to
after
drugs. Yes.
after
Hmm.
drugs. Fine. And like in most of my lectures, I say it is a low risk, high profit business. Fine.
Yes.
And the people that are involved, a lot of people are involved in it, and you will not know. Fine.
Yeah.
And Indy, I ask you this question. Eh? Do you have the
Yes.
skill? I'm not saying whether you can do it or you cannot do, but do you have the skill? If they kill somebody, do you have that skill to
Mm.
remove the organ for transplantation? You don't have the skill.
No. No. No.
So,
There are no skills like that. No.
so fine.
It's not
So,
everybody.
so you
No.
know. So do you have the skill to preserve it for transplantation? You don't have this.
No.
You don't have that skill.
But
Fine.
there should be professionals
So
who are now
I
into
am
that.
coming. Can you move it from one place to the other without a private jet? Can
Oh
you?
no.
You
Mm-mm.
cannot. You cannot move it from one place to the other without a private jet. Uh-huh. Can you afford it if you don't have funds? Can you? You
So
cannot.
everybody's in
And
this
then,
crazy
fine.
world
Again,
activities.
my
Yeah.
sister. Again. Can you retransplant it to the recipient if you don't have that skill?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
You see the people that are involved. Do you see the people that are involved? Fine.
Yes.
And then what do we do? Eh? And that was why I looked at it in 2009, 2019. I mainstreamed elements of trafficking in person into that. And then as I talk to you today, they have also infused elements of trafficking in person into the curriculum at the primary education level because I was also involved in doing that. It has been,
Wonderful.
but nobody, they go, they're not doing anything. You don't even know what they're doing. Oh, curriculum
I
review,
am glad. I am glad, big sis.
curriculum
I know
review.
we
I'm telling,
we
I'm telling you a few things that have gotten into
yes.
our
It's
curriculum. I said
awesomely
they
appreciated.
are also
Awesomely
working.
appreciated.
The Federal Ministry of Education is working with a lot of foreign and local investors to see what they can do. You see, the problem most of us have is that we think, you see, if you are in office, you leave, uh you leave, the people coming after you, you don't even want to see what good they are doing. You are not interested in what good they are doing. Oh, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. It's easy for us to, it's very easy for us to complain. And then
Yeah.
people think that um, you can only contribute to development of the system only if you are in government. No, you have to be, you can even do more from outside government. Am I in government? Have I since I left how many years ago? Am I near there? I'm not near there. But then I'm doing my best, whatever I can do.
Yes,
Then
you are. You
whatever
are. And so
and,
big sis,
and then
because of
try to
time.
find out. I also try to find out the good that the people that have come after me, whatever good they're doing, and I try to highlight it.
Yes, you
And,
did.
and that is the
You
way to,
did.
yes. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. We could talk long and long, but I'm going to invite you again because I'm
Yes.
interested in this human trafficking aspect. We devote time for that, and
Yes.
also on farming. And
Yes.
this was supposed to be an hour program, but we have delved into it. It's really good, and I plead to my followers to. This is going to be interesting to listen to. You're not going to be bored. In conclusion, I know that Nigeria can redirect education, as the professor who was the first female education minister of the republic has enumerated here, the good things that are coming. We need to go back to where we were when education was practically free. When you are coming out of college, you have a job. Some people had cars. People were sponsored to go to schools overseas. Colleges of education were free, feeding, accommodation, and all that. And many can testify to that. When, despite the fact that we don't have really good equipment and all that, the students were able to compete all over the world, and they still do. Imagine when they have equipment and all a little bit of what they need to really function well, they will surpass everybody in the world. And so the ball now falls in the courts of the state governments, the local governments, and everybody in between who is not using the funds or who are not using the funds appropriately to please consider these children. I am not here to judge anyone, and this podcast is not for that. We are just here advocating for those children who don't have a job when they come out, who don't have the skills they need, and who are being still on top of this called bad names. And on that token, big sis, Professor Chinwe Obaji, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I know you are busy, but you made out time. And we'll continue to talk. And I am going to schedule you to come back and talk to us. So, on behalf of NDISCO'S Village Meeting Podcast, I really thank you so much. And thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So, folks, please prescribe to this, and keep listening. We have more coming as we go on. Thank you all. Have a good day. Choosing your battle. Make yourself up and dust yourself off and back in the saddle. You're in the front line, everyone's watching. You know it's serious, we're getting closer, this isn't over. The pressure's on. When you get if you forget the cause this is Africa. This time for Africa.